So there is not a lot of teaching that is going to happen in this part. It's more like areas which you can focus, or the sources which you can refer to for the specific areas from the economics part. Just an orientation to the concepts part of economics. What to learn, what are the areas of focus conventionally from the perspective of UPSC, how do they ask. I'll segregate the economic syllabus into the various headings, and I'll tell you what is the importance for each area, what is the source of reference for each area, all those things. So the topics that we have inside economics, this is first of all economics test 1. Okay, economics test 1, there is an economics test 2 sometime later. Test number 4, economics 1. So we have the topics under it are national income accounting. No external sector in this test. Okay, these are the core areas that we have. Coming to each of these areas, I have written the syllabus. We have given the syllabus in accordance to how the classes run at Shankar IAS Academy. Here we do the classes in this particular order. These are the different headings that we have. So the syllabus is also divided accordingly. In the second test, you will have external sector plus the rest of the Indian economy. That is how it is done. So coming to specifically national income accounting. Okay, the questions from national income accounting are not very common. Okay, there are not a lot of questions that are asked from national income accounting when it comes to the examination, especially of late. So the kind of questions, if at all they are asked, could be if any new concept comes into the picture. So inside this chapter, you have a concept like incremental capital output ratio. A concept like incremental capital output ratio, about which questions could come. There is a concept called as depreciation which we learn about in this. So these sort of concepts, or maybe there is something called as green GDP, about which there is some news. Okay, so there could be questions about these concepts. So from this area, you have concept related question, or sometimes you have trend related question. What are trend related questions? India's GDP, real GDP, has been experiencing steady growth over the last 5 years. Consider the following statements. Which of the following statements are true? Okay, there it is trend. Over the last 5 years, what has been happening? The question may be about GDP, the question may be about investment, it may be about savings, it may be about consumption expenditure. You know what is the formula for GDP, right? Expenditure method, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So there might be a question about C, the trends in C, the trends in I, the trends in G, the trends in X, the trends in M. Any of those may be a question that could be asked, right? So that is what we have. Trend based questions, for which you will have to refer to data like the economic survey, which will have data about India's GDP. You can go to economic survey volume 2. You can take a look at the volume 2 statistics with respect to the GDP, with respect to the income accounting, GDP of the country. In that, just take a look at the tables. You will have tables which will give you trends. Don't memorize the table. Don't try to mug up the numbers, not required. Just take a look. Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? The kind of keywords that you have to look for is, there is a concept of increasing. So India's GDP has increased over the last 5 years. Okay, or it has steadily increased. So these are two different things. So these are the keywords that you have to look for when you're observing the trend. Increased means what? Let's say 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Let's assume this, okay? And then you are saying that GDP has been growing at a rate of 5%, 6%, 5%, 7%, and now 8%. This is one trend. What is happening in this trend? It was 5%, it is now 8%. It has increased. There's no question about it. But if you look at it, there is an increase, there is a decrease, there is an increase, there is a further increase. No decrease here, there's a further increase. So the increase has not been steady. What do you mean by steady increase? This is 5, this is 5.5, this is 6, this is 6.25, this is 6.5. It might even be lesser than the previous case, but here the increase is steady because every year there is increasing. Even by small margins, it's okay, but there is increasing. That is the difference between just increase and steadily increasing. So these should be your observations from those trends. Take a look at the table. Is it increasing? Is it steadily increasing? Okay, just mark whether increasing or not. That amount of knowledge should be enough. Okay, so that is with respect to your chapter called as National Income Accounting. So what is the source of learning for National Income Accounting? The concepts, to a large extent, the concepts that are taught in class, if you have been a student here, if you have the class notes that were given, that should be enough. If not, you can refer to some textbooks. Specifically, if you want a textbook, I am not a huge fan of following Ramesh Singh because it is a really big book. Okay, the amount of data that is inside that, for the effort that you have to put in to read that book, the returns would be minimal. Because you take a look like Lakshmikant, take that book like Lakshmikant. If you study that book, entire book, you will get almost 90 to 95% of the prelims questions from that book itself. You read that book, you will get the answers. You read a book like Ramesh Singh, you read any book for that matter, not just Ramesh Singh, you read any economics textbook, 25 to 30% of the questions is what is asked from the book. The remaining questions are going to be from current affairs. I am not criticizing one particular book alone here. I am saying the book is so big, the return on investment is going to be minimal. So you can follow Ramesh Singh if you happen to already have it by picking and choosing certain chapters, by picking and choosing certain concepts and reading from the book. You can follow other books also, but one book where the chapter itself is very, very confusing according to my experience is that there's this book called as Shankar Ganesh, which is very good with respect to the other chapters, but with respect to the first chapter, National Income Accounting alone, for me at least, it has resulted in more confusion than clarity. Why? There are a lot of mistakes, typing mistakes. I don't know whether they have updated it recently, but when I looked at it, there were a lot of errors in that book. So this is with respect to the first chapter. Okay, your single biggest source or best source of learning would be, if you have a concept, type the name of the concept and look for some government website to give you the data, or you can go to Arthapedia and try to get that information, which is a website run by Indian Economic Service Officers. So it is a fairly reliable website. Sometimes they are a little slow in updating, but it's a fairly reliable website. Okay, this will give you an Indian perspective also. You can also follow Investopedia, but the problem with Investopedia is all their explanations are with respect to an American perspective, a Western perspective. Arthapedia will give you an Indian perspective to all these concepts. What happens in the Indian economy would be mentioned there. So that is with respect to National Income Accounting. Coming to growth and development is a very, very dynamic area. If you have the you can even refer to the Shankar Academy book for the first chapter if you happen to have that book, the brown color book that we have, brown or magenta color book. That is a good book for following this. All the key concepts that are required is there. That book can also be followed. I am assuming that to be a default. So what I mentioned normally in class is that you just need to follow class notes and Shankar IAS Academy's book plus newspaper will give you sufficient data. If you happen not to have these things, class notes and Shankar Academy's book, that is when other alternatives come into the picture. You don't have to read multiple textbooks. How many ever textbooks you read, the concepts are going to remain the same. Okay, you don't have to read multiple books. Just one book as a support is sufficient in addition to any class notes that you have plus current affairs. Coming to growth and development, there are some standard things which you need to learn, like Human Development Index, which is available in book, like inequality adjusted, gender development index, gender inequality index, multidimensional poverty index, world hunger index, then about Lorentz curve, Gini index. All these are certain factual information which you will get. There might be questions about that, like Gini index, they might ask questions, indicators of HDI, they might ask questions, publisher of HDI, they may ask questions, but that alone is not enough. So there could be some concept based questions from book based on standard indices, but predominantly the questions in growth and development is going to be based on current affairs, reports which have made the news in the recent past. Over the last year or so, whatever report has made news, global hunger index has made news, or doesn't quite come under the growth and development heading, but ease of doing business index. What are the various dimensions or indicators inside that? So any report which makes the news, where what makes news? If India has performed really well, or most likely India has performed really poorly. In either of this scenario, from a prelims perspective, you don't need to go and investigate into why has India performed well or why has India performed poorly. From a prelims perspective, all you need to know is what is that report, who publishes it, what are the key indicators inside it, what are the dimensions inside it, what is the scoring pattern like. You don't even need to know India's rank. You just need to know whether India's rank has increased or decreased. The trend again is sufficient. Okay, so that would be in growth and development. So current affairs, predominantly current affairs. So you will have to depend on newspapers or other articles to get to know what to read. There is no textbook as a reference there. Even for standard things like HDA and all those, you need not rely on a textbook. Your website, you go to the concerned website of that organization. Let's say Human Development Index, they have their own website. Human Development Report has its own website. You go to the website and there is a field called as what we do or about us. You click on that. That will give you a brief idea into who publishes it, who publishes is a given, who publishes, how frequently is it published, that is important. What are the upper and lower limits, like 0 to 1, that is there. What are the dimensions, what are the indicators, then what is something unique about that report. Everything is mentioned within that 2 paragraphs or so. That reading should be sufficient from a prelims perspective. If you're preparing for mains, you will need to investigate into why India is performing poorly or why India is performing well, what could be done to make India's ranking better, what could be done to improve the general position in India. All this is from a mains perspective. Coming to public finance. Public finance is a chapter where all 3 kinds of questions are asked. There are concept-based questions, there are trend-based questions, and there are current affairs-based questions. Concept-based questions are likely to be from the budget itself. What is revenue expenditure? What is a revenue receipt? What is capital expenditure? What is capital receipts? How mixing them up, giving capital account and then capital receipts and then giving some capital expenditure inside where you might not notice the word receipt, or giving the term capital expenditure and adding a revenue expenditure inside so that you miss out on it. So those sort of questions, conceptual clarity. Similarly, formulas with respect to fiscal deficit, primary deficit, effective revenue deficit, or simply revenue deficit, those may come into the picture concept wise. Or even concept wise, FRBM, what are the provisions of FRBM Act, what are the provisions of Finance Commission, because Finance Commission is regularly in the news. Okay, Finance Commission is regularly in the news. So about Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, what are the suggestions of the second set of suggestions of the 15th Finance Commission? So what are to be implemented from 2022 to 2021 to 2026? So that is important. All those, again, not the current affairs part, that will be the third heading. In the concept part, how does the Finance Commission work? What is it that they do? What is the function? That perspective. So all that is what I mentioned in the concept. Now coming to trend would be in terms of fiscal deficit. That is the primary area. Fiscal deficit, your revenue deficit, primary deficit, effective revenue deficit. What has been the trend over the last 5 years? So, or 5 or 10 years. This you will get from the budget document itself. You need not go to the economic survey. You download last year's budget document. For the coming test, download last year's budget document and go through the trend over the last 5 years or 6 years. What has happened? The budget document itself will have the data. There is a website for India's budget. There is a specific website for the budget. From the website, just type Indian budget, you will see what is the website. And then you can download the document. Not huge document, just 3-page document, 4-page document with a lot of pictures inside it. There is not a lot of reading that you will have to do. Just go through the trends. That will give you an idea about public finance, primarily with respect to the deficits. And current affairs questions are Finance Commission is a current affairs question from here. FRBM review committee, if they have suggested something, that could be a current affairs question. If the government has made some budget related announcement, tax related announcements, any new tax reform that may come in, all those are possible questions from current affairs here. Okay, so that is with respect to public finance. So what is the source of learning for public finance? What is the source of learning? Any conventional textbook, your class notes, if you have sufficient, add a little bit of the textbook, whatever textbook you have. If you have Shankar Academy's book, or if you are following a book which you have been following for a while, just follow that. No need to read from anywhere else, but make sure that the book is updated, because even today in some textbooks, the expenditures are classified as plan and non-plan. That is not the case anymore. It's scheme, non-scheme. So make sure that those sort of updations are done. There are still some textbooks which say that budget is presented in the first week of April or first week of March. Sorry. So now it is presented in the first week of February. So those alterations, make sure that it is done. All right. So that is something that is with respect to the Finance Commission. Textbook to follow. Any standard textbook that you have should be good with respect to the concept. It's not very dynamic in nature. Coming to this chapter called as money. When it comes to money, current affairs is very, very minimal. There is not a lot of current affairs that can be asked from that. There is not a lot of trend-based questions also that we normally see. For example, has the money supply in India increased or decreased? Those sort of questions are not very common. So the questions are predominantly going to be based on concept. Okay. When I say concept, the question is, what is legal tender? What is fiat money? What is convertible representative money? These sort of questions, asking for the definitions, that could be a question. Then your how is money supply determined? That logic. Money multiplier as a logic. Money multiplication has been a question which has been asked more than once in the recent past. What is the concept of money multiplication? Understanding that, what results in money multiplication, that. Then the concept of monetary aggregates itself. One of the biggest issues that you find with respect to monetary aggregates is that a lot of textbooks are wrong with respect to the monetary aggregates that they have given. There used to be a monetary aggregate system where you had M1, M2, M3, M4, which was in existence till 2000. That is 20 years ago. These textbooks are still following that system. Okay, so you have to get the most recent one, which goes with M0, M1, M2, M3 monetary aggregates. There is no M4. They have introduced something called as M0. So this concept is what you need to learn. The old one, no need to memorize, but this one, you need to understand the logic and study it. No need to memorize if you understand the logic. Okay, no need to memorize it if you understand the logic. All right. So that will be with respect to the monetary aggregates. Where can you get that particular information from? Everything else that I said, like different types of money or money multiplication, you have from your conventional textbooks. But because your textbook can be wrong with respect to monetary aggregates, my suggestion is just Google it and type RBI. There will be some RBI document or RBI FAQ which will give you the list of M0, M1, M2, M3. They are the ones ultimately calculating it. So that is the best source for you to learn. Just that M0, M1, M2, M3. If you can spare the time, if you read a small document, 1 page or two page document is available with respect to this monetary aggregates in the RBI website. It is I think some report that has been published. If you can read that, that will give you a better understanding of this concept of monetary aggregates. Okay. So that is with respect to the money chapter. Not a lot of current affairs questions, not a lot of trend-based questions, predominantly concept-based questions from that area. Inflation, although inflation is a very, very important area over the last 6, 7, 8 years, since in India, inflation has been reasonably stable. We have been managing it around the range of 4%. There has not been a lot of scope for question from inflation, and there has not been a lot of questions from inflation. Maybe one question in the last 6 years or something is all that you would have found. But currently, in the current background, the scope for inflation questions are quite high. So you need to understand how inflation can be managed. How can demand side inflation be managed? How can supply side inflation be managed? So there could be questions based on concepts. With respect to trend, I don't see the scope for a lot of questions. Inflation has been increasing continuously. That sort of a question which you will be able to answer without much reference to any particular data. And then there could be some current affairs based questions. Current affairs based questions could be with respect to some concept with respect to inflation. Again, concept, but current affairs. So something which we don't conventionally read in a book, you may come across this in a newspaper. So those sort of questions you may expect, you can expect from that. Okay, concepts like stagflation, concepts like the Phillips curve concept. Those kind of questions may come, or you may have questions like how to control inflation, measures to control inflation. What measure of a government can control inflation here? What other measure of RBI can control inflation? So here, an assumption that is to be made is, if they don't specifically mention what inflation they are talking about, assume it to be demand side inflation, measures to control demand side inflation. Okay. And one very key point to remember in inflation is, in inflation, while answering a question, just stop your so some action is taken, some effect happens, right? Stop the effect at the first level. Don't think what will happen after this effect. Now what happens is, some action is taken by the RBI, some effect will happen. As a result of that effect, some other effect will happen. As a result of that, some other effect will happen. All these are not compulsions. They may happen, they may not happen. You cannot arrive at an answer if you have multiple expansion of this concept. So just think, action taken, what is the effect? Stop the your thought process with that first line of effect and answer the question with this, just this one line of effect. Otherwise, you may never be able to arrive at an answer. Too much of thinking will lead to confusion and lack of clarity in inflation. Just keep it at a very superficial, basic level. Government takes an action, what is the immediate impact? Stop at that. Don't think of long-term impacts. Just the short term is all that is important. Again, the source for inflation is basic concepts available in textbooks. Your current affairs, you know that it is based on newspapers, any editorial, any concept which is very relevant in the front page, something which makes news a lot. Other than that, not a lot of scope for current affairs based questions there also. When it comes to the next chapter, banking, the questions are predominantly going to be based on current affairs. Okay, trend wise questions are not very easy to ask. The possible questions are about NPA. NPA in the banking system has been increasing steadily over the years, that sort of generic statements. But even that, I wouldn't call a trend based question. It is a generic question just to see if you are aware of what is happening in the economy. So those sort of questions can happen. So banking chapter is predominantly based on current affairs. The most interesting aspect about banking is that over the last 6-7 years, if there are, let's say, 15 questions asked from economics, 5 are from the banking sector itself. 4 or 5 questions. So this is the single biggest area of questions from economics. However, this also happens to be an area of current affairs, which means that your learnings from textbook is going to be very, very minimal. Okay, there are some concepts over here, concepts like capital adequacy ratio, CAR, concepts like NPA. What is the concept of NPA? Or what else can we think of as a concept? Concept of demand liabilities, concept of time liabilities, term liabilities, that is in the banking system. The financial intermediation, that could be the concept, but predominantly it is going to be based on measures taken by RBI to control inflation, some committee, Sunil Mehta committee, which has been set up, insolvency and bankruptcy court to deal with the NPA crisis. All those sort of current affairs based questions are what are likely here. Ombudsman scheme, all these are current affairs based. So banking, it is predominantly driven by current affairs. There could be some concept questions, like I said, from CAR or the functions of a bank and all those things, NPA and all those, but predominantly current affairs. So the source, other than conventional book, it is predominantly newspaper. Whatever comes in the news about the banking system, you will have to read about it, and the answers are going to be, questions are going to be based on that. Financial market, please do not spend a lot of time reading financial market, because over the last 10 years, I have not seen a single question which is directly from financial market. There have been 2 questions which I can remember. One question is about T-bills and one question was about P-notes. But these are, although these are with respect to, so this is with respect to the money market, and this is with respect to P-notes is P-notes are probably traded. It is in the share market, but it is part of foreign portfolio investment. So it is in the share market. Share market, it's a form of investment in the share market. However, these are topics that you will anyway learn even if you do not learn financial market. So both, this is again public finance, this is again about foreign portfolio investment in the external sector. So these are not purely questions from the financial market, although you can claim it as financial market. These are from other areas also. You can claim this as public finance and this as external sector. So considering that, there have not been, assuming these to be from different areas, there have not been a single question from financial market specifically with respect to understanding the concept and all those in the last 10 years or so. Okay, no questions. But we cannot leave the area as it is. We should know some basics. So keep your understanding to a bare minimum understanding of what is meant by money market. Okay, what is meant by capital market? What are some examples of money market instruments? What are some examples of capital market instruments? Within the capital market, what is primary market? What is secondary market? How does it work? Okay, what is equity market? What is debt market? Okay, just a basic understanding of that is enough. Any further learning, if see, even in current affairs, so this is with respect to concept. So just the concept, some basic concepts. Okay, just if you can't find any source, just Google any term: equity market meaning, debt market meaning, primary market meaning, secondary market meaning, money market meaning, example for each of those. You come across a word debenture, look at the meaning, Google for the meaning of debenture. You come across something called as BSE. What is BSE? Just take a short note of what is BSE. Take a short note of what is NSE. That should be enough. So concept is what happens. If there is current affairs, so when do you have to read current affairs about financial market? Normally I say in class, don't read the business segment unless it is a government related news. Don't look at how the share market is performing. Don't look at how the private companies are performing. Do not look at how BSE, NSE is performing. It is not important. However, if there is something with respect to the financial market which makes the front page of the news, there is some scam happening, there is some new initiative of the government, there is something which is so important that it's in the front page, then it is part of current affairs. Whether it is financial market or anything, they may ask questions from that. So only if it makes the front page, you need to read current affairs about financial market. Other than that, I don't see any necessity to read this because it's predominantly private. Wherever the government aspect comes in, for example, G-Secs, T-bills, about these you will have to read. When government does, when RBI does open market operations or repo transactions and all those, you will have to read about those. Which reminds me, when I said repo, I was reminded of that. In inflation chapter, you also have to look at measures which RBI uses. So you'll have to learn about the concepts of repo, reverse repo, your various rates that are there, CRR, SLR, all those would come in here or in the chapter called as banking. We normally look at it as part of inflation because those are inflation used as inflation control measures. So this is with respect to financial market. Once again, if you have a standard textbook, you can read this chapter using a standard textbook, or if you want, you can even just simply search the internet and learn. Okay, so this is about the entire economics part 1. With this sort of a learning, you will be able to tackle your economics questions in this test as well as in the UPSC examination in these topics.